Hey, Double Love, it's Pastor Gabby and Pastor Andrew. We are, like all of you, incredibly frustrated, watching closely, praying closely, um, and trying to make sense out of the absurd events at the Capitol. To see a group of white insurrectionists, purportedly Christians by their own flag waving, in the Capitol, doing things that we're sure, on the basis of history, if it were black folks doing that kind of stuff, would have gotten bullets instead of selfies with Capitol Police. And so we are, as a Jesus movement, committed to black lives, not only here to say that that kind of work is not in any way aligned with God's intentions for love and justice. But given the demographic changes in our country and that one of our political parties is committed to white nationalism, committed to a kind of violent presumption that they own the country, and the other political party is only halfway interested in reform, not to mention black liberation, which we believe is not just what we want, but what the Lord desires and is working through God's creation to help make happen.
Absolutely. And so we're just taking a few minutes, first of all, just to sit in it with you, right? We're all experiencing this moment in our nation together. But we do believe that God is able to make something out of what appears to be catastrophe, what appears to be chaos, because it is catastrophe, right? It is horrific. It is everything that has been said about it, right? People are not blowing it out of proportion. This is something we've not seen since the 1800s. Nevertheless, it is our hope, it is our prayer that we might be able to, as a community, find ways to deal with the roots of these problems, because the roots of these problems go deeper than just MAGA. The roots of these problems go so deep that we have to literally decolonize what we believe about God, what we believe about who gets to control what we believe about who is in power, who gets to stay in power, and all those things. And so, we're just here to be in it with you. If we were not in virtual church, we would have opened up the church and had y'all come in and we would have just sat together and figured it out. But since we are still in a pandemic, we have mediated ways of coming to you, but we wanted to make sure that we took the time to sit in it with you and to give you, you don't need our permission, but in case you feel like you need it, to give you permission to feel everything you're feeling. To give you permission not to feel like you've got to stifle the anger, stifle the frustration, stifle the tears. You should feel what you feel, because this week has been unprecedented. But know that if we work together, we can use this exposure of blatant racist intent to bring a magnifying glass and a spotlight to the reasons why we were in the streets last summer, right? These things are not disconnected. And so what we invite you to do is sit in this moment, but allow whatever questions that you have, allow whatever rage you have, allow whatever frustration you have, allow it to come to the surface. Write it down. Call somebody. Do something with it. Don't suppress it. Because as it comes out, God might also be giving you the response, right? Sometimes we need to surface what's going on so that we can then allow God to help us respond to it. And so, here at DLE, we are going to keep preaching Jesus, preaching justice, preaching love, But we're also going to be getting our arms, our sleeves rolled up, and making sure that we are organizing and looking for ways to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem.
Amen. In the weeks and days to come, we will surely hear superficial calls for healing and coming together, and why can't we all just reconcile and listen to one another? And certainly there's something to be said for conversation and discussion and truth-telling. But it may very well be that the only way out of this is to really do the work of decolonizing our faith, as Pastor Gabby is saying, and reconstructing this country from the bottom up. A lot of historians and black scholars have made the point for quite some time that every time there's been even a modest advance in black folks' incorporation to what appears at times to be a democracy in this country, you have just incredible pushback. We saw that for the first time with the abolition of slavery, at least on paper, and then you get the surge of the Ku Klux Klan. You see the start of Jim Crow in the late 19th century. We saw it in the response to the Civil Rights Movement, the second time where we actually tried to become a democracy. The pushback there that we saw in the Nixon era, the war on drugs, the rise of mass incarceration, the killing of black revolutionaries in the streets, sometimes by the police department. And now at a moment where we see just the beginnings of incorporation of black folks deeply into our democracy. Ever since President Obama became the head of state, we've had folks saying someone who's obviously born in Hawaii is not a part of the country, including the sitting head of state, that president's successor. All of that to say, while it would be nice to say that this is just a moment that we'll have to ride out now that the Senate is flipped and the president is who the president is and the vice president who the vice president is. The reality is that we're going to be in tumultuous times as a country for quite some time. And we'll have to trust God and push to move through it.
Absolutely. So listen, here's two things that we're doing this month that were already on the calendar that I invite you to join us for. We thought they were important before all this happened, but they're really important now that this has happened. The first is throughout the month of January, Pastor Andrew is teaching through his book, Freedom Notes, reflections on faith, justice, and the possibility of democracy. That's the name of the book. And every Tuesday night, he's teaching through different essays that he's written on the pursuit of faith, justice, and possibilities of democracy. So that's a really great way to, we're doing it in a way that Pastor Andrew is teaching, but then he's also leaving a good chunk of time in these Bible studies for Q&A. And so we already have kicked it off. And the first night, we had over 30 minutes of question and answer, which were really robust questions. So that's a great place to really wrestle with some of the ideas that maybe you're just allowing to see surface for you. So that's a great place to do that, Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock on Facebook and Zoom. And then the second thing that we already had on the calendar, but that I think would be really beneficial in this moment, we're planning a 4-hour overnight virtual teach-in on Sunday the 17th. We're calling it our virtual teach-in for King Day, right? And we're studying both the works of Martin Luther King Jr. as well as the works of Princeton Theological Seminary professor Carey Day, Dr. Carey Day. And so that's going to be from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And so that is intentionally, it's late night, it's overnight. It's 4 hours, so it's not rushed. We're going to act like y'all are in school again. We're going to be your designated professors, but it's going to be great. And that is another place where you can really interrogate your questions. Bring everything. Bring all the stuff that you want to figure out, and we're going to dedicate those 4 hours to it. Take your nap in between church and the virtual teaching so that you're present. But those are two things that were already on our calendar, and we are continuing to teach in our Create series every Sunday, and that is going to be particularly important because sometimes when things like this happen, we get so discouraged that we give up on whatever it is that God has called us to create. And the reality is the thing that God has called you to create might help us get out of this mess in the first place. So tune in continually with us as we preach through that series on creating on Sundays, Freedom Notes on Tuesdays, and then on Sunday, January 17th at 10 p.m., we will begin our 4-hour overnight virtual teaching, King Day teaching. And so we will continue to do the work together. We are praying for God's mercy on America, and we are praying for change. And we will forever continue to be a Jesus movement committed to Black lives. And so we love you all. We are praying for you, and we will continue to journey through this murky territory together. God bless you.
God bless you.